Electric vehicles have a lot of plus points, but one area that they've usually stumbled upon is long distance range. Now that's where this car comes in. It's the new Volkswagen ID.7 aims to counter that slight inexperience with a decent amount of range coming courtesy of some very large batteries and some great aerodynamic efficiency. We're also testing it here in more practical Tourer guise, which could be a good option for those who need a car with lots of range and lots of space. So let's head on in and find out just what this latest ID.7 Tourer has to offer.
The ID.7 Tourer follows those typical estate car design touches. It's a long car in the metal, and overall I think it looks a little bit smarter than the standard fastback version. Now you can get the ID.7 in a variety of different guises. This one is the Pro S Match, which brings one of the best possible ranges. Naturally, you can also opt for the GCX version, which brings a dual motor setup and more performance. However, the key headlines of this car are a tip-top range of 424 miles. Plus, the fact that you can charge it at speeds of up to 200 kilowatts means that you can do a 10 to 80% charge in around about 26 minutes. It does all come at quite a cost though. The basic entry price for the ID.7 is just over £46,000, and this one here costs £55,260. So it's a fair amount of cash, though in fairness, it is quite a lot of car for the money.
There's a very tech-heavy focus inside the cabin of the ID.7 Tourer, and it's all centered around this 15-inch central display. That's where you're going to find all of your media, your connectivity and your navigation functions, and thankfully it's nice and responsive to your inputs, and the menus are intuitively laid out, so it's not difficult to navigate through it. Volkswagen has also cracked the system by backlighting the slider buttons at the bottom, something it forgot to do on the ID.3, and that means they're far easier to use when you're driving at night. I'd still rather just have some proper physical controls for that, but as an alternative, they're not too bad. You also get a compact screen ahead of you and these steering wheel buttons, which, as I've mentioned on other Volkswagen models, don't feel all that pleasant to use because you're just never quite sure if you've touched them properly or not. Then at the side is one of the things I find the most annoying is the switchable front and rear window controls. It means you only get two switches and you have to toggle between the front and the rear of the car depending on which ones you want to open or close. Just put in 4 switches, Volkswagen, it's so much easier. However, it is an altogether nicely built area, and I do think that the areas you're going to interact with most of all are intuitively designed, and at least they operate properly and sharply. One area where you can't fault the ID.7 is rear seat legroom. There's loads of space here, and because of the electric focus platform underneath, you've got a nice flat floor, so the person sitting in the middle is also going to have enough room to stretch out. But even the seat in my position, and I'm just under 6 foot, I've got loads of room for my feet, loads of room for my knees, and headroom is excellent too, considering this also has a panoramic sunroof. So yeah, rear seat passengers are going to be able to get very comfortable back here. Space is a top priority for any estate car, and the ID.7 Tourer does very well in this regard. In fact, it's got 605 litres of boot space as standard, and you can expand that to 1,948 litres by lowering those rear seats down. That makes it incredibly competitive against other regular estate cars in the market, and means that this is an actual practical EV choice. Certainly for family use, this is going to be fine, and thanks to a low load lip, putting things like buggies or strollers in the back isn't going to be difficult. I think this is a very decent amount of space and adds another string to the ID.7's bow. The Volkswagen ID.7 aims to deliver the kind of refined, relaxed driving experience that you'd get from a traditional executive estate car. Now, the big deal with this ID.7 is range. Volkswagen claims that you could get up to 424 miles from a single charge in the ID.7, and that opens up this EV to a whole other area of driving, one that is usually taken up by diesel and petrol cars. Now, of course, you're going to have to be able to reliably charge your car, and you're going to be able to have somewhere at home to make sure that you can top this up each and every day. But in doing so, you're going to unlock a huge amount of range, and that means that this is a genuine alternative to a petrol or diesel vehicle with that headline figure. Of course, as with most EVs, I take them with a pinch of salt, and I'd always knock a little bit off for cold weather. But even so, if you take into account some cold weather figures and some higher speeds, that's still going to be a range nearing 400 miles, and that's really not bad at all. This car is going to be great for long distances, but what is it like to actually drive? Well, it's very quiet, it's very refined, and most importantly, it is comfortable. The steering doesn't have an awful lot of feel to it, but that's something we've come to expect from modern cars. and the suspension actually does a good job of hiding the ID.7's weight. Of course, when you get some slight undulations, it feels like it's unsettling the vehicle. However, when you are up to speed and when you're cruising along, let's be honest, that's what the ID.7 has been designed for. It's very refined and it's super comfortable. What I like most of all by the ID.7 is it's just quiet. That's something that is made all the better because you haven't got a combustion engine buzzing away ahead of you. It's refined and comfortable, and I think this is going to be making long distance trips very easy, certainly in the ID.7. When you eventually stop for charge, the ID.7 can accept up to 200 kilowatts of charging speed, and that means a 10 to 80% charge in just under half an hour. So again, those pit stops, which, let's be honest, if you've driven for 400 miles, you're probably going to want to stop. You're not going to be waiting around for too long to get the car back up to a full or a near full charge. In terms of visibility, it's okay. Rearward, it's a little bit tight because that narrow rear screen does impede your rearward sight ever so slightly, but the pillars at the back aren't too bad, and certainly up front you've got this nice low wide windscreen, and yeah, it feels quite traditional, quite approachable actually, even if you've just been driving petrol and diesel cars for the whole time. The brake pedal on this one is a little bit soft, and though you can adjust the amount of regen you're getting from the electric motor, this is a single motor version ID.7 after all, it doesn't bring you to a slow in any way near as aggressive fashion as you'd find on other EVs. That's not too bad if you are coming from a petrol or diesel car because it feels a little bit more natural, but if you've driven other electric vehicles and you're able to take more control over the regen braking, might feel a little bit alien, might feel like you've not got quite as much control as you usually might do. Because of all this freed up space, you might notice something is missing down here, and that's you've now got the transmission on the column, and that takes a little bit of use to it. It's a bit like driving an old 90s or 2000s era Mercedes-Benz with its column shifter. You just get used to it. I find that to be more of a pain when you're doing quick maneuvers like 3-point turns. You find yourself just fumbling around, but eventually you will get up to speed with it. It's just one of those things that feels a bit strange to begin with, but I'm sure after time you'll get quite used to it. Another thing that Volkswagen hasn't attempted to do is put any kind of sci-fi noise into the ID.7, and again, that makes it feel far more normal and far more approachable if you're coming from a conventional petrol or diesel vehicle. I don't mind the electric noises. I think they do add a little bit of excitement into an otherwise quite quiet environment, but in this instance it makes far more sense to have no noise whatsoever because it just makes the whole car feel more relaxed. The ID.7 Tourer feels like the kind of EV that could tempt away even the most staunch of internal combustion engine supporters. It's got loads of range, but most importantly it's practical and comfortable, and it feels like it could slot in where a traditional estate car left off. Sure, not for everyone, because everyone needs to be able to plug this car in, and you're going to have to think a little bit about how you're going to charge this up at the end of every day. But certainly if you've got the option of charging at home or you've got reliable top-ups nearby, this ID.7 Tourer's fantastic range and decent equipment levels inside mean that it could provide a genuine alternative to a traditional petrol or diesel estate car, and that's why I would thoroughly recommend it and search it out if you are in the market for a new EV. Let us know in the comment section, would you make the switch to an electric estate car, or do you think you'd rather stick with petrol and diesel? Leave us a like if you have enjoyed this video, and since you're here, please remember to subscribe to the Motors YouTube channel, and if you hit that bell icon each time we upload a new review, you'll get a notification directly to your inbox.